The M2 Bradley has been a workhorse of an infantry fighting vehicle for the U.S. Army since the 1980s, but over 40 years later, it's time for a change. Enter the XM30, the next generation of IFV that promises to take thousands of troops to the battlefield in the next generation of warfare. As of this year, the companies behind the project have been given the green light to continue with the development phase of the XM30 project, so it won't be long before we see these fighting transporters in action. Let's have a look at the project so far. In August 2014, General Dynamics Land Systems and BAE Systems Land and Armaments were awarded around $8 million each to develop technologies for the Ground Combat Vehicle program. This was the original program to replace the U.S. Army's armored vehicles, starting with the M2 Bradley. The program was then canceled due to budget constraints. 2 years later, Army officials said they were standing up a next-generation combat vehicle program to introduce a new family of vehicles by 2035. Although this wasn't to be centered around a new IFV, it was set to replace the M1 Abrams, Bradley Fighting Vehicle, Mobile Protected Firepower, and the Stryker. However, it appeared this program also lacked the funding needed to progress. Another 2 years passed, and in the summer of 2018, the Army officially established the Next Generation Combat Vehicle program to replace the M2 Bradley. It was then redesignated and named as the Optionally Manned Fighting Vehicle, or OMFV. Just like its original intention, the Next Generation program was expanded to include tanks and the Bradley-based Armored Multi-Purpose Vehicle. In March 2019, the Army invited proposals from companies willing to design such vehicles. There were strong contenders and massive engineering powerhouses started to compete. At the start of 2020, the contenders had been narrowed down to a variant of the Lynx KF-41, developed between well-known military engineers Raytheon and Rheinmetall. Up against that was the Griffin III, developed by General Dynamics Land Systems. The Lynx was disqualified after failing to meet a deadline to ship the prototype to the proving grounds by the requested date. This left only GDLS in the running, but this was also disqualified because its prototype was too heavy, so two couldn't fit in a single C-17 aircraft, which was a key requirement of the program. This left the Army at a crossroads. Their two main designs had been disqualified, and any other potential developers were being put off by the fact that development costs were being put onto the engineers, rather than provided by the Army. After the Army decided to put up some money for the project, they were able to find some more potential vehicles. This started a new rebooted program. In the summer of 2021, the Army gave contracts to 5 teams. The total value of this contract was worth almost $300 million. The teams that were chosen were Point Blank Enterprises, Oshkosh Defense, BAE Systems, General Dynamics Land Systems Incorporated, and American Rheinmetall Vehicles. In a 15-month-long phase, these teams were tasked to come up with designs that would reduce the potential engineers to 2 companies. There were 3 main requirements given to all of these teams. The new IFV needed to be a tracked vehicle with a hybrid electric drive. There needed to be an unmanned turret housing a 50mm autocannon. This could also be a 30mm turret that could be upgraded to the larger caliber eventually. Then, in terms of space, it needed a reduced crew of 2, a commander gunner and the driver, with additional space to carry 6 troops. Once the designs were submitted, the Army chose 2 suitors to continue with the process and develop their prototypes. These were General Dynamics Land Systems Inc. and American Rheinmetall. The total value of the contracts was $1.6 billion, which will contribute to the development of reconnaissance whilst also providing protection, transportation, and small arms firepower for squad elements. The program has also been renamed again and is now known as the XM30 Mechanized Infantry Combat Vehicle. The total cost of the program is estimated at $45 billion. The next stage of development will involve the build of 11 prototypes each, 7 with the contract award with an option for 4 more. On top of this, the 2 contractors will also be developing 2 ballistic hulls, turrets, armor coupons, and digital model twins during development. The Army is now placing massive emphasis on competition between the 2 companies to really push what they're capable of. Once the prototypes have been tested, planned for the first quarter of 2025, the Army will choose a winner in 2027 to enter service. One of the most important aspects of the program is sustainability, and as a result, Allison Transmission has already announced that it is providing its eGen electric hybrid propulsion for the American Rheinmetall XM30 design. The system is specifically designed and developed to fill the performance demands of future-proofed combat vehicles. It's an integrated power pack that provides 850 kW, 1140 HP. Its 8 forward and 2 reverse gears help with providing this power to the vehicle's tracks. The engine's compact size and comparatively low weight of under 2,000 kilograms means that it's more versatile as to where it can be placed in the chassis. It also features a 220 kilowatt electric motor, which allows for optional silent driving and an inverter for vehicle power generation. On top of the 3 main priorities for this new IFV, there are other requirements that will need to be installed. These include machine guns, anti-tank guided missiles, an advanced 3rd generation forward-looking infrared sensor, and intelligent fire control. On top of this, the Army has asked for integrated active protection systems, kitted armor, and advanced signature management capabilities. The Army has made very clear the needs for the XM30, whichever engineer they decide to give the contract to. First, it needs to enable command and control at the platoon level and higher by rapidly generating, receiving, and passing information to dismounted elements, other vehicles, and command nodes. Then it also needs to detect, engage, and destroy enemy infantry fighting vehicles beyond the range of the enemy's primary weapon system, and rapidly defeat dismounted enemy infantry threats. Its 3rd job will be to improve organizational effectiveness by reducing the logistics burden on the Armored Brigade combat team, with better reliability and onboard diagnostics and prognostics, ease of maintenance, and reduced burdens on the supply chain in terms of spare parts, fuel, and munitions. Finally, there will be a need for the XM30 to allow rapid adaptation by means of growth margins that allow for future technology to be installed on the vehicle. There is still a long way to go with the program, but the selection of 2 contractors to start work on a prototype is a huge step to the next generation of fighting vehicles for the U.S. Army. While it has successfully chosen its 2 finalists, there is much work to be done before any prototypes are ready for trials, which could potentially throw up more issues and delays. If the Army has learned from its lessons from previous failed programs, it will have a very useful vehicle at its disposal that will deliver troops to the battlefield. What do you think about the XM30 program? Let us know in the comments, and please like this video if you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.
The M10 Booker is set to become the future of armored fighting vehicles. As the winner of the U.S. Army's Mobile Protected Firepower program, this vehicle has the potential to be an ever-present feature for the most powerful army in the world. Let's discover why this monster was chosen for future development and when we can expect to see the M10 Booker to take the battlefield. In 2016, reports suggested that the Army wanted to create a light ground combat vehicle to maintain the relevance of infantry brigade combat teams when engaged in extensive fighting against a similar enemy. At first, this was dubbed a light tank, but U.S. Army representatives renamed this program to Mobile Protected Firepower so that troops didn't treat it like a traditional tank like the M1 Abrams main battle tank. The vehicle, with a heavy gun and tank-like mobility, is less armored than an MBT like the M1. It's designed to go places the Abrams can't, and to fight against enemy vehicles, defenses, and forces without needing the super heavy armor that weighs down battle tanks. The MPF's development gave an excellent opportunity to fill a void left by the retirement of the M551 Sheridan Armored Reconnaissance Airborne Assault Vehicle. The M551 did have technical flaws, but it was greatly appreciated for its robust operational abilities. This left a gap that needed filling. In 2018, the Army selected bids from General Dynamics Land Systems and BAE Systems to develop their designs to fit the MPF brief. Prototypes of GDLS's Griffin II and BAE's M8 AGS were sent to the Army at the beginning of 2020. 2 years later, BAE's submission was disqualified and the Army selected the GDLS model for initial production later that year. In 2023, the Army type reclassified the vehicle as the M10 Booker. Later that year, the U.S. Army revealed the award of a $1.14 billion contract to GDLS for the production and fielding of up to 96 of these vehicles. The overall objective is for 504 vehicles in total, with 14 MPFs per brigade combat team. There are 2 people, both no longer with us, who have the surname Booker and are specifically honored in the naming. The first is Robert D. Booker. He was a soldier who fought as part of the U.S. Army in North Africa in 1943. When fighting against Axis forces in World War II, he used his machine gun to defeat one machine gun nest and, despite receiving fatal injuries, guided his squad as they advanced. For these actions, he was awarded a posthumous Medal of Honor. The second person honored is Stephen A. Booker. He was among the tank crew leading the April 2003 assault on Baghdad. After the mounted machine gun failed to operate, he laid prone on top of the tank and guided his unit to defeat anti-tank fire. He was also fatally wounded during these actions and was awarded a posthumous Distinguished Service Cross. Now both will live on through this new vehicle that is set to be part of the U.S. Army's plans for decades. The design of the M10 Booker is conventional, with the driver and engine at the front, with the turret located at the rear of the hull. The turret houses a crew of a commander, gunner, and loader. The design of this turret is based on the M1 Abrams tank, using the M1A2 SEP V3 fire control system and the commander's independent thermal viewer. The vehicle also uses components and systems from the ASCOD Armored Tracked Vehicle platform, which is fully designed and developed by General Dynamics European Land Systems. The Booker also has additional armor panels and under-vehicle protection against improvised explosive devices. For the additional safety of the crew, the design incorporates a tested compartmentalization system for ammunition storage. The vehicle has been designed with mobility and firepower in mind to make it a useful tool for clearing uneven terrain like the contested road to Baghdad or the fields of Tunisia, and then using a powerful gun to destroy fixed defenses and any defenders left crewing them. The U.S. Army already had one mobile tank-like vehicle with high-powered gun for similar purposes, the Stryker Mobile Gun System. That vehicle is armored and turreted, but has 8 wheels instead of treads, and the Army is looking to move away from this kind of system. The new M10 Booker will fill a similar role, with a body designed for the wars of this century. In terms of weaponry, the main armament of the M10 Booker MPF is a 105mm cannon based on the American M35. For secondary armament, there's a 7.62mm machine gun mounted coaxially. The cannon has the ability to fire armor-piercing, discarding sabot and high-explosive rounds, with a maximum firing range of 1.8 kilometers for the armor-piercing shells and 4 kilometers for the high-explosives equivalent. This main cannon is loaded manually. One 12.7mm heavy machine gun can also be mounted on the commander hatch. For further protection, 2 banks of 4 smoke grenade launchers are mounted on each side at the front of the turret. In addition to its weapons, the M10 Booker has Safran Optic 1's Paseo Commander's Independent Tactical Viewer long-range panoramic targeting sight. This increases the situational awareness capabilities of armored and surveillance vehicles in all combat scenarios, whether that's stationary and on the move, even at high speeds. This feature is an advanced panoramic sight to improve the survivability and fighting capabilities of infantry fighting vehicles and main battle tanks. It's essential that the vehicle is mobile across a variety of terrains. To do this, the M10 Booker is equipped with a state-of-the-art MTU diesel engine contributing 800 horsepower and an Allison transmission system. This gives an excellent power-to-weight ratio, and the ride is further improved with hydropneumatic suspension. This all gives troops exceptional speed and adaptability in cross-country navigation. The Booker can run at a maximum road speed of 65 kilometers per hour and has a top road range of around 190 miles. The vehicle is able to operate for 24 hours off the ramp or on arrival at the drop zone. The way this tank-like vehicle is designed means it can move over steep hills, valleys, cities, and rivers with relative ease. The cross-drive transmission system that it's fitted with is specifically engineered to help with propulsion, steering, and braking in medium-tracked combat vehicles. The hydro-pneumatic suspension seen on the vehicle is developed by the company Horstmann Group, which uses high-pressure nitrogen gas and an integral oil damper, all contained within the road arm. The suspension appears on each side of 6 road wheels with a drive sprocket at the front and the idler at the rear. The M10 Booker is priced at around $13 million apiece. Despite the ever-evolving counter-tank tools that are making armored assault vehicles harder, the need for militaries to advance under fire still remains. That makes tanks and tank-like vehicles a durable feature of modern armies, so expect to see the M10 Booker as a mainstay of future battles. What do you think about the M10 Booker? Let us know in the comments, and please like this video if you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.
The CV90 is a highly versatile Swedish infantry fighting vehicle designed to tackle the harsh Scandinavian landscape. It has spawned a family of IFVs, the most recent of which has been used to help Ukrainian efforts in defending their country. For almost 30 years now, it's been the jewel in Sweden's military crown, and there's no sign of this IFV going anywhere soon. In fact, it's likely we'll see the next iteration of the vehicle in the next few years. Let's take a look at this Swedish fighting machine. During the Cold War in the early 80s, the Swedish Army needed vehicles with high mobility, air defense, anti-tank capability, high survivability, and protection. In 1985, the Stridsforden 90 was a project group that was made up of representatives from the Swedish Armed Forces, the Swedish Defense Administration, or FMV, and Swedish contractors that included Hägglunds and Bofors. These contractors would be behind the CV90 build and future iterations. Hägglunds would become part of BAE Systems. In the project group's search for an IFV, they finalized the design for a new vehicle that came from an Air Force concept. A year later, the prototypes were ordered. 5 prototypes were constructed and were delivered in 1988. These were then tested extensively between 1988 and 1991. At this time, further prototypes for specialized variants were ordered. The first deliveries to enter service started in 1994. Since then, the original CV90 has gone through many iterations, and the core of the vehicle is often customized to meet the needs of specific missions. Let's look at the latest iteration that's currently in service, the CV90 Mark IV. The Mark IV came from a research and development program performed by BAE Systems to use feedback from the 7 countries that use the CV90. This iteration has many new improvements on its predecessor in terms of mobility, protection, and firepower. The newest vehicle was launched by BAE Systems during the International Armored Vehicles Conference and Exhibition in September 2017. The design of the CV90 Mark IV is very similar to the original model, with the driver seated in the front left, the power pack to his right, the turret in the center, and the troops' location at the rear of the hull ready for deployment. The construction is of all welded steel armor. This basic armor can stop attacks against 14.5mm armor-piercing rounds. The armor protection over the frontal arc is classified, but all models from CV90 and later are said to be protected against 30mm armor-piercing fin-stabilized discarding sabot ammo. This CV90 has a crew of 3. This includes the driver, commander, and gunner. The rear part of the hull, which is home to troops being delivered, can accommodate up to 8 infantrymen. These are seated with 4 on each side facing each other with an anti-blast seat for each soldier. These troops enter and leave with a large hydraulic ramp in the rear of the hull. For further protection, the Mark IV can be equipped with an active protection system. The state-of-the-art sensor suite of this APS provides a long-range, real-time 360-degree panoramic view of the vehicle's vicinity, which gives the vehicle the capability to react and counterattack quickly. Threats are detected thanks to the use of an active electronically scanned array radar sensor developed by Rada Electronic Industries and a passive infrared detector developed by Elbit's Elisra, if required. When a target is close, an explosive projectile interceptor is launched towards it. The interceptor explodes very closely to this threat, destroying or deflecting and destabilizing it without detonating its warhead. This interceptor is a mortar shell-like projectile with a combustible blast warhead that sends a shockwave upon detonation, enough to neutralize the incoming aggressor. In this version of the CV90, modern protection systems of the vehicle also include a jammer system to stop infrared missiles and laser detector devices. To power the 37-ton tank, the CV has an impressive engine. It's an improvement on previous designs, with the Mark IV capable of up to 1,000 horsepower from its engine, and the latest upgraded X300 heavy-duty transmission. The torsion bar suspension of the vehicle has 7 dual rubber-tired road wheels on each side, a drive sprocket at the front, and an idler at the rear with no track return rollers. A track tension adjusting system is fitted as standard on the CV90, which lets the driver adjust both tracks at once without the need to move. If needed, the IFV can be equipped with SUSI-type rubber band tracks. These are lighter and quieter while also providing greater range, reducing vibrations, and increasing protection against fire and mine blasts. In terms of weaponry, the Mark IV can be fitted with a 2-man turret or an unmanned weapon station. The power-operated turret is of all-welded steel construction and designed for 2 men, with the commander seated on the left and the gunner on the right. Turret traverse and weapon elevation are all electric, with manual controls available in the event of an emergency. The D-Series modular turret with the vehicle is highly versatile and can be switched out with different types of armament, from 30 to 40 mm and 35 to 50 mm automatic cannons up to a 120 mm smoothbore tank cannon. The secondary weaponry can include Spike LR or other anti-tank guided missile launchers, as well as a 7.62 mm coaxial machine gun. This gun is mounted to an independent pod located on the turret's left side. This weapon pod can also be armed with 40 mm automatic grenade launcher, 7.62 mm machine gun, or a laser weapon depending on the needs of the mission. The right side of the turret features 2 anti-tank missile launchers stored under armor and raised from inside of the turret to fire. This storage box can be replaced to host UAV or other spy or reconnaissance devices. There are also 8 smoke grenade dischargers mounted under armor on each side at the front of the turret. Standard equipment of the vehicle includes a nuclear, biological, and chemical filtration system, with a chemical detector and radiation detector systems. For stealth, it can also use heat-absorbing filters to provide temporary protection against thermal imaging, image intensifiers, and infrared cameras. The commander can use an independent sighting system mounted on the roof of the turret. This is a day camera, a thermal camera, and a laser rangefinder, which lets the user find targets and confirm threats to the gunner, who can take them out with a cannon or anti-tank missiles. The CV90 is currently in service with Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Netherlands, Norway, and Switzerland, all using the IFV. By 2020, there were 16 different versions of the CV90, all modified to deliver various roles. Over 1,000 vehicles have been built to date, and in 2023, it was announced that Sweden would contribute 50 of the vehicles to Ukraine. However, it wasn't known which version was being sent. Now the Swedish Army is looking to improve the CV90 once more for the Mark V model. The work needed on this is estimated to take the next 4 years to complete. Although no agreement has been reached between the FMV and industry, there have been some development goals published. The first is for a hybrid electric propulsion system to be proposed and possibly integrated. Others include improvement of its heat, radar, and visual signature management, integration of beyond line of sight anti-tank guided missiles, and integration of unmanned aerial vehicles. These improvement variants are thought to extend the lifetime of the CV90 in the Swedish Army beyond 2034. What do you think about the CV90? Let us know in the comments, and please like this video if you've enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.